All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. Now rise on my train of thought. It is time for Miami Mock Mondays, and as you can tell, this is number 12 on the list. Only got a few of these left. After this one, it's only 2 of these left. Let's get right into it, and let's talk about who I got in this draft, and honestly, what I was graded, apparently. So let's get to business. With the 11th pick here, it's a lot of the drafts I've done this time have worked out similarly, where a good amount of the offensive linemen are available. And for this one, I ended up going with Francis Mauigoa at 11. It was a pretty simple pick here. It's a matter of, okay, he's your day one starter at right guard or right tackle, and you move. The power game is there. The position flexibility I just explained is there. The quickness, and he's a road grader. Again, we need some physicality up front, and we need the right side shored up. Either A, he becomes a right guard and an absolute menace there. Or B, he becomes a right tackle and probably an absolute menace even there as the heir apparent to Austin Jackson. I would imagine he plays the former until it's time to do the latter. And for that matter, if the latter works out, maybe he becomes the guy that Miami passed on for Jalen Waddle and Penei Sewell. And he becomes the absolute stalwart brick wall that Sewell has been pretty much ever since he got off the bus or the plane in Detroit. So lightning doesn't strike twice. Miami goes against a right-sided anchor on the offensive line for the future. Speaking of Waddle, obviously not having Jalen means that we got to address the receiver room, right? And though Miami's done so already in the offseason and may still do so with the likes of Jawan Jennings, at 30, I wanted to get some size, and we need some red zone presence. And Denzel Boston happened to fall to 30 and make this a whole lot simpler of a pick. The 6'3", 6'4"-ish frame, 50-50 ball guy. He's not going to beat you with speed. Okay, fine, cool, but we got receivers that can do that. And I think with Boston, that's a guy that he can go get it because their catch radius is crazy, and his abilities to basically win at the high point, that's what we're here for. That's what we need to help balance out the receiver room. So I've heard a lot of comps for him for Cortland Sutton. I think I've compared him to Sutton in terms of the catch radius and the ability to just make spectacular plays here. At the high-end ceiling seems to be Puka Nacua. Now, as long as he's Puka on the field, if Miami were to draft him, perfectly okay. Let's not be Puka off the field, where he's kind of a weirdo. But in any event, if he's Puka on the field, that's a top-tier receiver, and I'm okay with that if Malik Willis is throwing him passes next season. So at 43, I wanted to address the cornerback room, knowing that I got a receiver in place, and I've got a starting offensive lineman somewhere in place, I believe. And in this case, Avian Terrell happened to fall to me. It was him, it was Chris Johnson, there were a couple other corners that were worth grabbing here, and I ended up taking Terrell. I get it, he's undersized a little bit, 5'11"-ish. Okay, fine. That's not really undersized to me because I'm 5'11", but we ain't talking about that right now. What we're talking about is that he is a sticky corner who is able to mirror receivers, who's able to be a good boundary guy, and is able to take advantage of his skills and abilities. And obviously, there is a Clemson legacy and a family legacy in the sense of his brother, AJ Terrell, with the Falcons, who has proved himself to be a pretty good corner in the NFL. I don't think he's as physically talented, but I do think he is a very capable boundary corner. And like I've said before, we need one of those in the worst way possible, and probably 2 of those, to be honest. Maybe one we get after June 1st. Obviously, with losing Jack Jones to the Chiefs, that is going to be, I would say, fairly necessary to go get somewhere in this draft. And though his player comp surprisingly isn't his brother, it turns out that his player comp, one of them, was Trent McDuffie in terms of his ceiling. McDuffie being another smaller corner who can mirror receivers and can just be a lockdown type of dude going forward as a very good corner that he's been for years in Kansas City and now should be very good in Los Angeles with the Rams. Trent McDuffie, I think it'll be a pretty good comp. And the other thing about Terrell that I was able to find while obviously researching for this, good with the peanut punches. A playmaker in the sense of forcing turnovers. I constantly think of him about getting innos, but if you're telling me he can also force turnovers with the peanut punches, that works too. Turnovers are turnovers, and we need people on defense that can force those. So Denardon and Sutton was gone by the time I could get to 75, which was absolutely stunning. He was taken 68 by the Eagles. That's not so nice. But what was nice is that I was able to still get an edge rusher all the same. And R. Mason Thomas happened to be available at 75, so I decided to snatch him up with that pick. Like DDS, he brings some power, he brings some physicality, and he complements the speed rushers that are David Ojabo and especially Chop Robinson, who are built off speed. More so the Josh Uche style with the power game, which I like that. I like the high motors, which is something that Green Bay seems to thrive on when it comes to their pass rushers. And then there's Micah Parsons, who's a one-of-one. Anyway, R. Mason Thomas, his player comp, turned out to be someone who also fits the undersized physical traits that he tends to have. And Nick Bonino, who has come on strong the last couple of years and turned into one of the really good edge rushers in the NFL. And in the case of Bonino, he's shown himself to be a pretty solid player in pass coverage. So he's not just a pass rusher, which I can dig that. Nick Bonino has shown himself to be a very good edge rusher. And if R. Mason Thomas, who's a little smaller in terms of the height game, can be a bit of a Bonino clone, that works. Works for me. I'll take it. So pick 75 had me kind of torn between choosing Thomas and the next guy I'm going to pick in Kamari Ramsey. I was hoping that the latter would fall to me at 87, and as it turns out, I got my wish. I got my safety in Ramsey, and with Kamari, it's the versatility, it's the chess piece, it's the ability to say, hey, he can line up in a slot and cover, bet. He could also cover the deep zones, he can cover with his very good speed, also bet. Good in run support, that also works as well, and a respectable playmaker, so I will certainly take that. And his player comp turned out to be a safety I really enjoyed watching early on, especially in his career, and Julian Blackmon, who, with the Colts, was very good, and unfortunately hasn't seemed to hit the heights that he once had, I guess, in the first 2 years of his career, but Blackman's still a very productive safety in the game, and I think Kamari Ramsey can be such a thing in Jeff Hafley's defense. So I would totally take a chess piece and see if we can move around with Ramsey and his skills and abilities. So that's what I did at 87. Next up, we went to 90, and I decided to fill the other outside receiver spot and go Bryce Lance. This was a pretty easy pick for me here. A lot of the receivers were going, and I still want the speed with the size. And once again, he's Christian Watson 2.0. That's what he feels like, a more consistent Watson. Can he actually do that in the NFL? I would think so. Sure, the route running has to improve to some degree. It's not like Boston in terms of the route running with his size, but I do think the route running can improve with proper coaching. And the straight line speed, you can't teach that. 4'3" guys who are 6'3", you cannot teach that. So give me Bryce Lance here at 90. So I took Maui Goa at 11 for a simple reason. I ideally would rather he be the starting right guard and then eventually move to right tackle, as Austin Jackson's still a viable right tackle, and then Maui Goa goes out there in the event of Austin not being a Dolphin in 2027. So this means that I need a guard to fill that spot. And this is where 94 came into play. And Febechi Nwewu was a guard in Oklahoma who actually is a guard/center type. So in the event that Aaron Brewer's had some injury issues, which have not flared out, fortunately, and I'd rather keep Aaron Brewer. I think he's a very good center, one of the best in the game. I would like to see Nwewu be the guard or center, but either way, he would be the right guard in this spot. Good run blocker, and is an overall sturdy, solid offensive lineman. And that's, again, something that we just genuinely need because this offensive line has had its problems that are well documented over the years. And though it's unspectacular for his player comp, it's Chris Paul of the Commanders, but I do think he's sturdy and solid. And that's something that, again, we could use. They don't all have to be spectacular offensive linemen. And we already have one in Brewer, and we may have one in Patrick Paul. So let's just keep the trend going of keeping the line in place. And obviously this means Jonah would stay on the left, which, okay, fine, as long as the offensive line, as long as he can improve in year 2. Now, I will admit my next pick is a risk, and it's also a risk that fills a need at the tight end spot. And Eli Raritan from Notre Dame turned out to be the pick. The size, again, you cannot teach it. He's 6'7" or 6'6", if you will, 245, and he's a good seam threat. That's a good look. Now, here's the risk. It's the ACLs. He has had 2 tears in his collegiate career. That's a little bit of a concern, obviously. Big concern, obviously. But if Raritan's healthy, I think this is a very interesting, low risk, high reward type of pick if it can be done. I'd be perfectly okay with that. And obviously with Dolcic, you don't have to rely on him to start right away. You can at least have him as a DE2. He could get a little bit better with the blocking, but if he can work on that, it feels like he's willing to. I think you can get a really good, complete, balanced tight end with the abilities to just simply be a dynamic player in the seams and truly help the cause there. And his player comp turned out to be a guy that the Packers brass that have come south know all too well, Luke Musgrave. And Musgrave have shown himself to be a very talented seam threat, and with the athleticism there, again, you cannot teach something like that. Another pro comp I've seen is Kyle Rudolph, which is due to the size and the red zone ability. And we know Kyle Rudolph was money in the bank in the red zone. He's kind of a light version of Kyle Rudolph was a player comp that I saw of Eli Raritan. And if Raritan can stay healthy, I think this would be a steal at 130. So next up, more pass rushers, because let's face it, we're dealing with Josh Allen and Drake May 4 times in the NFL season. You need dudes that can get home and dudes that can bull through the offensive linemen in question that Buffalo and New England are going to have. And I guess the Jets too. With that being said, I decided to go with Anthony Lucas here with 151. And yes, I get it. He doesn't have the first step that you would like Chop Robinson does or David Ojabo does, but he does have the power game. And more power guys, and especially going down the stretch in seasons, power game I can roll with. He also has a 7-foot wingspan, which I think would help in the versatility game if we're going to go 4-3 and 3-4. He can line up outside as well and use that wingspan to bat down passes, of course. I'm okay with that as well. And his player comp seems to be Malcolm Kuntz. And I don't mind this because of the ability to be a plug-and-play kind of rotational edge rusher. And again, like I said before, we do need some dudes that can stop the run, not just Jordan Brooks and Tyrell Dodson. We need some dudes up front that can also take care of that. And in the case of Lucas, he's known for being able to stop the run. And again, using that 7-foot wingspan, I think that can generally help in shedding blockers and just overwhelming them with his power game. I'm okay with this. I think this would be a good rotational situation for 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s. And then in the case of play actions or so, I think we can make that work. I stayed in SoCal and I stayed at USC for my next pick, and I want some more versatility and some more speed here. And Eric Gentry could be that versatility with the ability to play some safety, the ability to play some linebacker, and the overall just freakish athleticism that he could potentially have. He's at 6'7", he's like 220, 230-ish. Could he bulk up in the NFL? Maybe. But what if he doesn't have to? What if he's just overall able to use pure athleticism and just be a dynamic player wherever you put him and just be a really good chess piece as a free safety type or an outside linebacker type that can be there for coverage and maybe even get home and cause some pressure and cause some chaos in opposing backfields, which is why Isaiah Simmons seems like a really good comp. And obviously Simmons hasn't had the career that a lot of people thought he would, being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in 2020, but Simmons has carved himself out to be a decent utility type of player, whether he can play safety, whether he can play linebacker, or just be a monster on special teams as well. And maybe Eric Gentry can be any or all of these things, and maybe even a better version of it, considering the value in getting him in round 7. And the final pick here is one that Malik Willis knows all too well. It's the same one I had last week in C.J. Daniels to round out this draft. And with Daniels, of course, the possession game is the 50-50, go get it type of guy. And of course, the rapport that he already has with Malik Willis, I think is going to work out seamlessly. Good route runner, pretty good blocker. The comp is still pretty solid with Amon-Ra St. Brown in that, where he isn't going to overwhelm me with speed, but it's kind of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts type of thing with his game, I would say. Good hands, and of course, the route running and the blocking, something that I can totally work with. And if we're going to run the ball as much as it feels like we're going to with Achane and company, get dudes that can block and get dudes that can be more than just speed guys and be a little bit better with dealing with corners that may get physical at the lines, because obviously we've had some issues with that with smaller receivers. So I wanted to get one more bigger receiver to help handle this situation. There you have it. This is Volume 12 of Miami Mock Mondays. Coming up later this week, NHL and NBA Power Rankings. Now, this version, like I've said before, for both sports, are going to be abbreviated. I'm not going to go super in-depth with each team because you kind of understood what everyone is at this point. And this is also going to include both playoff predictions for each sport. So they're going to come out a little bit later this week. The NHL, more than likely Thursday. The NBA, more than likely Friday. That's kind of how this is going to go, since all family business should be settled by then. And obviously with the NHL Power Rankings coming up, the Vancouver Canucks are going to be the first stop of my next train of thought.